Last time, Mario took an adventure through all of the Lost Kingdoms, but what about the Lost Sub-areas? He wanted a little bit more adventure, so Mario set off to clear all of these areas from his past that he knew all too well. First up, he went to Cog Works. This is the place where he had to jump across a lot of rolling cookies. Usually, all of that was pretty difficult and required a lot of balance, but since Mario had Cappy for this one, it was much easier. Also, there were a few shards for him to collect. He found the first 3 by crossing this area and scaling up the wall, and just as he got up, he found the secret box below him that housed the first moon. Also, the 4th shard was right by here, and of course, after a little bit of exploring on top of this wall, he grabbed the last shard and claimed the 2nd moon for this area. And next up, he traveled back into space and got to the first planet of Sky Station Galaxy. This one was a lot more simple. There were a few Goombas circling around the house, so Mario captured them and stacked them up to get on top. The first moon was right above the chimney there, and going down this hole, he got to the other side of the planet and found the other moon. Cool. Then he thought, let's stay up in space for something a little bit better. And the next place he saw was Battle Rock Galaxy. It was just like he remembered, getting on this flying saucer and taking a ride past all of these cannons. Except it's definitely a lot more peaceful when they're not all shooting at you. Mario even seemed to be getting a little bored at one point, but that's alright though, because the fun starts at the end. Mario got the main moon on the last platform, but still needed the secret moon, and that lied in this P-switch, which made another platform appear for a challenge. He rolled underneath to get to the lift platform, got off at the top to grab the key, and raced back down to grab the moon just before everything disappeared. That was really cool. This place is always awesome to see. So he had to keep going to more galaxies. And next up was Cloudy Court. Of course, Mario was used to doing this with the Cloud Flower, but thankfully, diving onto Cappy and using him as a platform was kind of the same thing. Definitely made crossing these platforms a lot easier. And a little ways through, there were even some clouds that were just created on their own, and Mario didn't need the suit to stand on these. But once he was shot over to this platform, he noticed that there was a spot for a key in the floor. He wasn't sure where it was, but at least now he knew what to look for, so he made his way up this wall and across this cloud to the last platform. The main moon, of course, happened to be right there, but where was this key? Mario suspected it would be right below him on this platform, but it wasn't there for some reason. And then with him trying to look harder, he got shot by the windmill. And nothing over here seemed to be the answer, so he just jumped backwards to the first platform, and in doing so, actually found the key all the way down here by this window. What a spot that was. And luckily, right underneath it, there was a ledge for Mario to land on, so he could just jump back over and grab the secret moon that was now unlocked. Now with that done, he went to Dusty Dune Galaxy. And of course, it was in easily one of the most dangerous areas here. Quicksand surrounded all of these tiny platforms, and Mario did not have Cappy for this one, so he just had to make a lot of fancy dives and use the blowy joeys to his advantage. After he went flying over this huge gap, he was on the last platform. Of course, one moon was right here, but then Mario also noticed a key behind the pipe. That unlocked the moon all the way back at the start. So was he gonna have to go all the way back through? Well, he could, but he could also do something cool. Instead, he lined himself up with the skull sign, got some speed with a roll, and dove to get all the way across the gap. Man, even without Cappy, those trick jumps are still awesome. And he had to stay without Cappy for the next area. But this was Sweet Sweet Galaxy, so he couldn't be too disappointed. Everything here looks so colorful and tasty. That's all Mario could think about as he jumped across all these platforms. Also, he did enjoy diving over all of these holes in the ground. It was quite a nostalgic place. Then there was just one more line to dive across. And of course, once they were there was the main moon, but there was also a P-switch right next to it. So Mario stepped on it and saw the secret moon appear over the gap that he had just crossed. So he dove his way back over all of these circles that were now moving with him instead of against him, and grabbed the secret moon just before it disappeared. Then, of course, he could officially go back over and grab the main moon. Now Mario could head back down to Earth for a little bit and go to Snowball Park, the place that is very cold and filled with a lot of ice. Thankfully, there weren't that many enemies here, just a couple of Goombas around, but there were also shards to collect here. Most of them were pretty visible because of the camera, but it was still pretty cool. Once Mario got to the middle and found this large patch of ice, he found a lot more Goombas, but sadly, none of them were riding in their skating shoes. But whatever, he just had to go over here and see if he could find the secret moon. And he did, but it just so happened to be a Goomba switch. Turns out he had to collect all those Goombas. So he trudged through the snow all the way back to the start, captured and stacked up all the Goombas along the way, and by utilizing these large groups at the end, made a stack of 9 to activate the switch. And once that was done, he was able to find the rest of the shards he needed for the second moon. But then, you know, he couldn't stay on this planet for too long, so he went back up to Flip Swap Galaxy, the place where the red and blue platforms switch every few seconds. I mean, at least now he could jump whenever he wanted to, but Mario still got tossed around quite a bit here. This is because when the platforms switch from red to blue, they actually swing upwards instead of downwards like usual, so it was very easy for Mario to get flung off if he jumped at the wrong time. There were a few frustrating points for him, to say the least, but after a few tries, he eventually got into a rhythm, got to this platform for 1 moon, and just had a few more to go. He actually almost messed up right away, but got incredibly lucky right here. After that happened, he just had to get off this as fast as possible, so he made a huge dive to the last platform, ground pounded this spot, and claimed that secret moon. Next, Mario soared on up to Clockwork Ruins Galaxy, the place where platforms move in a circular motion. Once again, having Cappy here was very useful because they were able to get across everything with relative ease. Also, there was some pretty cool stuff to see along the way. Once he got to the last circle with the tallest platforms, he rode them all the way to the top to find the main moon, but then he couldn't find the secret moon anywhere. It seemed like there'd be something on the platform below, but it wasn't there. So he got up and backtracked a little bit. He thought he had checked everything in this area, but then he noticed this giant wall on the back, and by utilizing the platforms at their highest possible point, he was able to jump all the way up there. And upon further inspection, there was a chest up here that had the secret moon inside. Mario then traveled to a somewhat similar place, Spike's Lost City. This place also has a few platforms that move in a circular way. However, all the spikes that are supposed to be here are just nowhere to be found. But hey, at least climbing up all these hills will be much easier with no spiky rolling logs in the way. The main issue here was actually the aforementioned platforms, especially these that had a very weird cycle. Sometimes the best strat was to just go around all of them. He thought maybe the secret moon would be up higher along this path, but there was nothing up here, so he had to backtrack here too. There was another really tall place here, but climbing this wall did not seem feasible. That's when he looked over and saw the moon all the way up here. Apparently, there was a reason for these platforms going all the way around, because if done just right, Mario can get on top of them like this. So he swung around to grab the secret moon, then climbed all the way back up the hill for the normal moon. Now Mario had to go to Super Block Land, the place with a bunch of giant colorful blocks everywhere. Getting on top of all these giant blocks was really cool, and he could pretty much make it on top of any block. Cappy really gives him some seriously high jumps, but he wasn't actually able to find anything no matter how high he went. That was the case for the first island, and even when he took the flower road to the second one, he could still explore but didn't find anything. But maybe there's something else going on here. Well, everything made sense when he got to the end. There was the normal moon by the pipe, of course, but there was also a P-switch in the back. What could this do? Oh, okay, it just spawns a moon all the way at the start, so Mario had to race through the entire area backwards. And for some parts, that was kind of complicated since the flower roads only go one way. At least for the part with the giant slope, there was another flower road that went around the side, so that's cool. Then he just had to roll his way through these blocks. He also made a couple of fancy jumps and somehow didn't die. Then he made it all the way back to the moon with time to spare. Then he flew with the rocket up to this area, which was just a giant poison swamp, and it also appeared to be very 2D, so that made jumping across all these circles a little awkward, but it was also enjoyable, and everything looked really nice. Using Cappy, Mario was able to get enough height and distance to make it across in no time. That was for the main moon, and the secret moon was right behind the pipe on this weird structure. Back up into the clouds once again for Honeybloom Galaxy, still staying in the 2D space for this one. Originally, it seemed like the secret moon would be up where the secret star is like usual, but surprisingly, Mario just did a couple of wall jumps right here and found it just like that, so that was marked off, but he also wondered if he actually actually could wall jump up to that secret area. He tried for a good while, but apparently these platforms just did not line up right for him to get enough height, so unfortunately had to leave that a little bit of a mystery, and instead just grab the secret moon at the end of this planet. And finally, what better way to end this journey than by going to Mount Mustache? Now Mario can go fast. He grabbed those rocket flowers, raced up the hill, and sprinted along this huge road, which had a lot of large gaps. Mario also did a little bit of exploring, but once again had a little bit of trouble finding the moons. But just as he got to the end, he saw this. Could these platforms on the wall be the answer? Well, Mario was able to jump up to them, but for some reason, there was nothing up there. Just a blank wall. Maybe that was too obvious, though. There's another great hiding spot in this place. Mario took control of the rocket flowers once again and got a huge leap off the edge. He was able to soar all the way to this platform on top of the pipe, and the secret moon was right there waiting for him. And then, of course, to finish it off, he could just go through the pipe, use the rocket flowers to go up one last hill, and jumped all the way down to the finish line to collect the last moon in this adventure. This alternate reality is amazing. It was super fun to play through. A huge shout out to Amethyst for this mod, and if you want to see more stuff like this, check out this video right here. Take care, everyone. I will see you all next time.